Welcome to the show. Glad you're with me today. Did you see what a top MAGA said about Donald Trump's Republicans in 2026 if he doesn't release the Epstein files, which supposedly both don't exist and do exist, but were made by Obama and Clinton? Steve Bannon says that Republicans will lose 40 seats in the House of Representatives if the Epstein files aren't released. And here is how he said it at the recent Turning Point USA student something or other event.
It's not about just a pedophile ring and all that. This is about who governs us, right? And that's why it's not going to go away. For this to go away, can we blow the brake, by the way? Can we blow the brake, guys? For this to go away, you're going to lose 10% of the MAGA movement. If we lose 10% of the MAGA movement right now, we're going to lose 40 seats in 26. We're going to lose the president. You don't even have to steal it, which they're going to try to do in 28, because they're going to sit there and they've disheartened the hardest core populist nationalists that's always been who governs us.
The idea here is that there is a wing of MAGA that simply will not stand by this movement, will not stand by Trump, will not stand by the MAGA elements of the Republican Party, will not stand by their member of the House that represents them if the Epstein files aren't released. And in a way, it's kind of fascinating. But the catalyst to all of this is that Trump's own Justice Department, Pam Bondi, for example, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, are shutting down a lot of their very own conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein. Trump's DOJ and FBI concluded that Epstein died by suicide. There was no murder. There's no client list to show you. There's no cover up here. Case closed. Trump doesn't want to hear about it. Pam Bondi wants to move on. And now MAGA world is melting down. Bannon says it could cost you 10% of the base. Dan Bongino is reportedly so furious that he is considering quitting deputy director of the FBI. You've got, people like Laura Loomer saying that Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi needs to be fired. There are reports about all sorts of other people. We've seen the media meltdowns from Megyn Kelly and others. These are Trump's own people. These are his most hardcore allies, and they're turning on him because the conspiracy theories that they built and that they, in fact, structured their movement around. I mean, years of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino going, we got to get the truth about this stuff. Now they're in a position of power to make it happen. And they go, there turns out there was no real truth. We have the truth. It's all exactly as we were told, which, by the way, may be the case, but it's too late for that. And meanwhile, Trump really isn't helping. When Trump was asked about Epstein during a cabinet meeting, he sort of snapped and was like, you're still talking about Epstein? This is unbelievable. In other words, Trump's done with it. Trump wants MAGA world to be done with it, but MAGA world is very much not done with it. And it is when you start becoming attacked by the monster you created. It's like a paradox, really, of Trump's own doing. A movement built on paranoia, conspiracy, fear of specific scapegoats that you target. And then all of a sudden, you are in the position of being that which you told others to be suspicious of. Hey, this is the MAGA movement. When the people in government tell us that there's nothing going on with the death of Epstein that's suspicious, we shouldn't believe them. That's when Biden was in power. Now Trump's in power. And what's the government telling us? You shouldn't be suspicious of the statements, claims, and stories about the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Well, you conditioned your audience to be suspicious of government officials going, there's nothing to see here. And now Trump's going, there's nothing to see here. And Pam Bondi's saying there's nothing to see here. And Kash Patel and Bongino, maybe under duress, we don't know, are saying there's nothing to see here. And even Steve Bannon is now sounding the alarm and saying the most hardcore supporters and populists are disheartened by this. And if they don't show up in 2026, Bannon says that it is over. So the real story for me isn't Epstein. It's, all of the Epstein coverage we've been doing, it's not really about Epstein. Obviously, there's a client list. Epstein had clients. There's no question about that. As far as, the dying by suicide or being murdered, I have no evidence I can point to that it was anything other than a suicide. But it's the MAGA movement and what these claims represent for them and how it's ripping them apart and how it's something to exploit is really the big story. And we are seeing what happens when the well runs dry for the very conspiracy theorists that were feeding us the conspiracy theories. You radicalize your followers to reject official explanations, and now they are rejecting your official explanations. And Trump allies are sounding the alarm. Candace Owens is sounding the alarm. Megyn Kelly, Tucker, and now Stephen Bannon. It's not Democrats. It's not Biden. It is MAGA itself. And, we always are in this position of like, what's the distraction from which other thing? The only respite Trump is now getting from the Epstein fiasco is that new Trump health fears have gone viral, and the White House isn't telling us what's going on. Let's talk about that.